Within Python, there are things called loops or iterations, and they both mean exactly the same thing. It just means a way of going over something constantly until it is no longer true. And the simplest one of these is called the while loop. So the keyword is while, and then you have an if statement sort of expression between that. So if a is less than 100, and then I'll just go into print a. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do a plus equals 1. Now what that does is it adds 1, it increments it by 1 each time the loop runs. And so if we start this off with a is equal to 0, what we should have after we finish this, and what we do get, is a loop where a is equal to 0 all the way through to 99. Now the reason it doesn't go to 100 is because it's less than 100. If we did less than or equal to 100, then it would equal 100 by the time it gets to the end. So it'll go from 0 to 100. And this can be done with any type of operator as long as it fits the idea that something must be true for it to be ran. So after it gets to 100, it is no longer true. It is equal to 100, and therefore it doesn't execute anymore. And so it'll go down and do the next line here, which I'm just going to do. This is finished. And if we run this again, we'll get to the end, and we get this is finished right at the very end, but we don't get to anywhere else, and that is because the next bit of code does not run until the while loop has reached a point at which it no longer considers it to be true. Now the reason why this could be bad is if we had something where it no longer actually made a difference, where it didn't change, for example. So if we missed off the plus here by accident, we could run this and we just get an infinite loop and it will keep running constantly. And there is a stop button here, so if you get something which happens like that, where it just constantly is running, like you can see here I've got a huge list of just ones, because there is a problem with the code which I wrote. I missed off the plus sign, and therefore it created itself an infinite loop because it'll always be less than 100. 1 is less than 100. It'll always be true. So you can always press the stop button there to stop executing and check your code for any problems. You will notice that there wasn't an error that appeared, even though it's an infinite loop, which is something you'd never want to happen within your code, because it will simply just use up your resources, like your RAM, so quickly it'll just burn through it. So you never want to have an infinite loop. However, it isn't considered an error because the syntax of it is completely correct. There is nothing wrong with how it was written. It's just that it doesn't do what it should do, because you should never end up with an infinite loop. So that's the while loop, and that is the easiest way of doing an iteration or a loop within Python. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.